you up, the Lord has done. So many reasons to lift up Jesus.
This is Senior Pastor Jamaal Bernard from the Christian Culture Center, and I want to welcome you to today's message. Wherever you're listening from, at home, in the car, or on the move, I believe this message is going to challenge, inspire, and help you grow. Now let's get into today's message. Well, Dr. Bernard has been teaching us about Occupy, and I, once again, I believe it's a prophetic word. I believe that it's a word that has been given to us for a particular time. And the word that I received to accompany this word is a phrase that's kept coming to me saying, get out of your comfort zone. The church needs to get out of their comfort zone. The pastors need to get out of their comfort zone. For a lot of pastors, this was their comfort zone. But you ask a pastor, the average pastor, when was the last time you were walking the streets and you brought somebody to Christ? A lot of them are going to have to say no. For the church, the seats that you're sitting in is your comfort zone. And we wonder why the church is not growing as rapid as it could grow. Some of us are in such a comfort zone that we are so comfortable with just sitting on the train, not talking to anybody, have my AirPods or my headphones in, and I wait for my stop, and I keep going. And you see the same individuals every day on the same train, and you don't even know who they are. You don't know what they're going through. And God has taken you, lit you up, and placed you on the train, placed you on the bus, placed you in the workplace, placed you there so you can shine. And I think a part of that is we as a church, and I'm putting myself into that category, have been comfortable. And I ministered this whole idea of comfort zone, and I realized that when COVID hit, it pushed a lot of other individuals into a comfort zone that it was hard to come out of. You know, you had Netflix and chill if you were married. Married folks, right? You know, you were binge watching series after series after series, and when were you developing yourself? And so let me start my message called Stepping Beyond. See, we have to recognize the limitations of comfort. In our comfort zone, we find safety and familiarity, but growth is often limited. We must acknowledge that real progress occurs when we venture beyond. I'll say it again. We must acknowledge that real progress occurs when we venture beyond. When we venture beyond the known, breaking free from the constraints of our comfort zones. See, because the comfort zone breeds, number one, laziness. The comfort zone drains you of your creativity. Because there is no need to be creative when you're in your comfort zone. You use your creativity to get you there, but now you're comfortable and it's draining you. See, living in your comfort zone drains you of your drive. This is the principle I want you to go home with. When change is necessary, not to change becomes destructive. It's a principle that Dr. Bernard has taught us for years. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, when change is necessary, not to change becomes destructive. So I'll tell you a little bit of story about my push. So a couple of weeks ago, my dad and I, we were down in Miami, Florida, and he was speaking at a conference, and it was amazing. But with me hanging out with him, he wants to bring me up on stage. And as he was bringing me up on stage, you know, he has this big smile. He's looking at me, and he says to the congregation, he says, let me introduce you to the lead pastor of CCC. And I heard that. No, thank you, but I heard that, and my body got hot. My heart started racing. Right? Because there is something about a statement like that. He's said it before, privately, joking around when we were together or when we were in front of certain individuals, but he never did it publicly at that level. And it hit me. I was like, man, I wrestled in that little bit of, because I'm like, the time frame was like me walking from here to here. But it felt like it was in slow motion. I was like, but in my mind, everything was speeding up, and I had a bunch of questions. Say, wait, what did he just say? Did this just happen? Was another question. Another question is, did I hear him correctly? I'm like, and then it started sinking. I said, yeah, I heard him correctly. I said, okay, what does this mean? And then my ultimate question for myself in that moment of walking, as I got this close, am I ready? Am I ready? See, often we have a desire for something and we want something so bad, and then we get face to face with the very thing that we have been asking for, dreaming about, and we always ask that question is, man, am I ready? And what I realized is that I was in a comfort zone, and it was time for me to grow. I knew that it was time for me to step up my game. I knew that it was time for me to start acquiring new information and development for me as an individual. And I realized that God gives us opportunity to deal with things before we move to the next level. So that wasn't my move to the next level. That was letting me know that, look, you're about to move to the next level. And there's some things that you need to get in order as you move to the next level. But if you're comfortable about where you are and you're not going to look to have the drive to do the things necessary to get you to where you need to go. So what I realized is that, one, God gives us a chance to work on and developing our strengths. Number two, he gives us a chance to manage our weaknesses. Because everybody in this room has a weakness. We all have a weakness. I'm not going to tell you mine. And this happens even before. See, and as I look in this room, and Dr. Bernard has given us the challenge to go and occupy, my first question is, how many of us really stepped into that call? How many of us really stepped into that challenge to go and occupy, to use our skills, talents, and abilities to advance the kingdom of God? See, because some of us in this room are retired. I know some of y'all are out here retired, living your best life. You worked hard for it. You know, for some of you, you did the 20 and you were out. Some got their 25, some did their 30. But you. And what the realization as I interact with some of these retired individuals, they really don't have drive to occupy. They're good. I'm comfortable. I pay my taxes, put my work in. I'm collecting my Social Security. I got my pension. Everything's coming in. I'm going to the golf course. I'm good. Some of you are in here, you've been given the challenge to occupy, but you're living in this comfort zone because you just don't care about growing. You're comfortable of where you are. And some of you might lean on this statement. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Some of you are in here, you know you need to grow. You know you're at a place, you're at a pivotal point in your life where you have to pivot and say, I need to grow. I know why I need to grow, but you just don't know how to step out of that comfort zone. See, that's why I challenge individuals, especially in marriage therapy, talking to couples. I said, I understand that being angry is comfortable for you because you've been angry for so long. I understand that unforgiveness is comfortable for you because you have been dealing with it for so long. When we're in something so long, our body, our minds, we learn how to adapt to it. And we find it, the tension, I know what is right. As Paul put it. I know that I need to forgive. For some of you, that might be your first step out of your comfort zone. You see, we are either pushed or pulled out of our comfort zone. The question is it an external pull or push, or is it an internal pull or push? And that results in two things, because there's a fire that's lit. Is either the fire going to be lit on the inside of you, because you know you can do better, you can be better, Or is the fire going to be lit on the outside of you? Because somebody else says, I know you can do better. I know you can be better. I don't care where you are in your walk, you always can be better. And right now, I think the church reminds me of, I'm using this as a metaphor of how we're living right now. Because we've been comfortable with the things that are going on. But God is calling us to step out of the boat. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, God is calling you to step out of the boat. Let's go to Matthew chapter 14, verse 22, New Living Translation. See, in this conversation, it raises so many questions. But we'll start, and I'll explain the questions I have. It says, immediately after this, Jesus insisted that the disciples get back into the boat and cross the other side of the lake while he sent the people home. So here it is. Jesus is chilling. He sends the guys on the boat, sends the people home. If I was getting on the boat, the first question I would ask is, my man, how are you getting to the other side? If we're taking this transportation, that's the only transportation, you're over here chit-chatting, talking to the people, having conversations, sending the people home. How are you going to get to the other side? So I would have had that on my mind from the beginning. I don't know about the disciples. So let's continue reading. After sending them home, he went into the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land. For a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water. So here it is. Jesus, they're going through. But Jesus ain't arrived right away. So that's a message in its own. But for sake of time, we got to keep on going. I do have notes on that. Because Jesus came at 3 o'clock, but the problem was happening hours before. It was nightfall when they were running through some issues. But Jesus came at 3 o'clock. So there was situations, and the storm was brewing, and things were happening at nightfall, but Jesus didn't come until about 3 o'clock. All right, I'm going to keep going then. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them walking on water. When the disciples saw him walking on water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "Is it a ghost?" But Jesus spoke to him at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage, I am here." Then Peter called to him and said, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you. Walk on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on water toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why do you doubt me?" And you've heard it before that, keep your eye on, if he would have kept his eye on Jesus, he would never sunk. But it wasn't the posture of his body, it was the posture of his faith. It wasn't the posture of his body, it was the posture of his faith. And my question is, as you are asked to come out of your comfort zone, what is the posture of your faith? Remember, Peter started sinking because he started doubting Jesus. So it wasn't that he was doubting himself, he started doubting Jesus. So when you start doubting Jesus, you'll start finding yourself sinking. See? So turn to your neighbor again and say, neighbor, I'll ask you this again. Are you ready to step out of the boat? See, because in order to occupy, you must be willing to step out of the boat. In order to occupy, you must be willing to step out of your comfort zone. In order for you to occupy, you must be willing to interact with people you're just not comfortable interacting with. I told you the story before about my mother. My mother, she used to drive around, and it was times in the car that I felt awkward because she was willing to pick up anybody to minister to them. And one time, Mom was driving, and there was a lady of the night. And I told Mom, I said, Daddy doesn't want you to pick up the ladies of the night anymore. Why are you stopping? And then so Mommy stopped and said, so she needs help. Look at her. She ain't got no clothes on. She's cold. She needs some money. I need to help her. And I said, well, I'm telling Daddy. But my mother always looked for an opportunity, even outside of her comfort zone. My mother wasn't raised around that stuff. My mother wasn't, a part of that lifestyle. My mother didn't know what kind of individual, but she trusted and had faith. The posture of her faith in the Jesus that she lived by and lived with allowed her to step out of her comfort zone, willing to speak to the lady of the night because the intentions of the conversation was lead her to the cross and not just down the block. So number one, in order for you to step out of your comfort zone, you got to embrace the unknown. You got to be willing to embrace the unknown. See, embracing uncertainties can be daunting. It can be tiring. But it's where true transformation begins. Just as a butterfly emerges from its cocoon, we too must face challenges that push us to adapt, learn, and develop new skills. So number one, embrace the unknown. If I'm going too fast, just let me know. I'll slow down. If I need to repeat something, just let me know. I'll repeat it. Because it's not football season, so we got time. So number one, in order for you to step out of your comfort zone, you need to be prepared to embrace unknown. That's why I love what Dr. Bernard spoke 2 weeks ago about the uncertainties of life. Forrest Gump said it the best, it happens. Remember Forrest Gump was running? And he said, what happens? He said, it happens. Life happens. This is what Forrest Gump said. He didn't say the other thing that y'all are thinking about. But that's the reality. It happens. Life happens. But you still have to be willing to embrace the unknown. And I'll repeat what it says. What I wrote down, I said, this is where real transformation begins. Just as a butterfly emerges from its cocoon, we too must face challenges that will push us to adapt, learn, and develop new skills. It's at the unknown that your boundaries are tested, your limitations are tested. It's in the unknown because you already know in the known what your limitations are. Number two, you have to have courage in the face of fear. See, fear is a natural response to the unknown, but it shouldn't paralyze us. Let courage be our compass as we navigate uncharted territories. Let courage be our compass as we navigate uncharted territories. Remember, every significant achievement required someone to step into discomfort. You're in a building that could not have been built if Dr. Bernard lived in his comfort zone. You're learning from a pastor at Dr. Bernard's caliber if he wasn't afraid to step out of his comfort zone. And I love it because Joshua 1:9, he says this. He says, this is my command. What is God's command? And yes, he was talking specific to Joshua and Israel experience, but I think we could take this, extrapolate, and not strain the text and say this can be a command for all of us as we represent Christ in culture. He said, this is my command. Be strong. Be courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged. Why? For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. He's with you in the known and in the unknown. So let the compass of courage guide you in the uncharted areas of life. So number one, embrace the unknown. Number two, courage in the face of fear. Number three, learning through failures. I love it. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was doing a commencement speech at a school, a college graduation, and he gave 6 rules that he lives his life by. And one of them was embrace failure. He said anybody that would tell you that's successful would tell you that failure was a part of the success story. When you learn all the ways not to, you have to end up finding out the ways how to. If you've exhausted all the ways to say, no, this is not how you do it, you're going to eventually find out how to do it. So failure isn't defeat. Say to your neighbor, failure isn't defeat. It's a stepping stone to success. See, each setback brings valuable lessons that guide us towards our goals. Embrace failure as an opportunity to learn, to adapt, and refine your approach. Embrace failure as an opportunity to adapt, learn, and refine your approach. And remember, I alluded to that statement, if it isn't broken, then don't fix it. This has its roots in fear of failure. The idea that the attempted improvement or risk might backfire. So if you're looking to step out of your comfort zone, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, be a motto that you need to leave behind. Because it's rooted in fear. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says, for God has not given us a spirit of what? Fear. But of, come on. God hasn't given us a spirit of, fear. But of, God hasn't given us a spirit of what? Fear. But of? Y'all don't sound like y'all believe that. Number 4. Don't worry, I'm wrapping up. I'm closing. Number 4. Celebrate every step. Remember I said we got to sometimes live in the moment. And because we were so busy worrying about the next transition, we lose out in the moment and we can't even celebrate certain steps and certain milestones. But you got to learn how to celebrate every step. Don't be afraid to celebrate. See, celebrate even the smallest victories achieved outside of your comfort zone. Each step forward is a testament to your resilience and determination. By acknowledging your progress, you reinforce the positive effects of stretching your boundaries. So number 1, embrace the unknown. In order for you to occupy, you got to be prepared to embrace the unknown. Because God is not going to send you in places you're always going. He's going to start sending you in places that you don't go. He's going to start having you with conversations with people you don't know. As he calls us to occupy. Number 2, courage in the face of fear. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. We ain't never scared when I'm outside of the club and you think I'm a thug. No, let me stop. Number 3, learn through your failures. You're going to mess up. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, you're going to mess up. But it's okay. As long as you learn from it. And number 4, celebrate every step. And as I close with this, if there's anything that you can learn today, number 1, remember, growth flourishes in the soil of discomfort. If anything you get today is growth flourishes in the soil of discomfort. Growth flourishes in the soil of discomfort. So don't settle for the status quo. When the world beyond your comfort zone holds the keys to your personal and spiritual development. And number 2, for I can do all things. For I can do all things. Some things, a little bit of things. For I can do all things through Christ who gives me the strength. So basically you have no excuse to step out of your comfort zone. In order for you to occupy, God's doesn't want you to occupy in your comfort zone. You need to start occupying outside of that. Because there are individuals that needs what you have. And you got to get it to them. Amen. Amen.
Thank you for listening to Senior Pastor Jamaal Bernard of Christian Cultural Center. Download the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and visit cccinfo.church for more. We'd love to see you in person. Join us Sundays at 10 a.m. at our Brooklyn or Long Island campuses.